ABC to Z is an ambitious project that includes two parts. One is an update to the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Comprehensive Plan. The second part is an overhaul of the city's zoning code. ABC to Z includes extensive public engagement that sets the tone and priorities for the project. The comprehensive plan will be the document that includes policies and priorities. These are the shoulds for both the city and the county. As a plan for both the city and the county, the plan will first need to go to the planning commissions of both the city and the county, and finally be adopted by the City Council and Bernalillo County Commission. The comprehensive plan guides zoning in both the city and the county. The county will maintain its current zoning framework. The city will create an entirely new Integrated Development Ordinance. The city currently maintains over 100 standalone documents that govern land use and development within the city. At the end of the ABC to Z process, we hope to have just 2 standalone documents. One, the comprehensive plan, will be the policy document guiding land use and development within the city. The comprehensive plan will include Rank 1 goals and policies, as well as those goals and policies from Rank 2 area plans and Rank 3 sector plans. The regulatory document will be a new Integrated Development Ordinance, which will include an updated zoning code, subdivision ordinance, development process manual, which guides development in the public right-of-way, as well as revised planning ordinance, some overlay zones, and zoning from existing Rank 3 sector development plans. This simplified framework is expected to help encourage development where we want it in the city. ABC to Z began in February of 2015. The comprehensive plan is on track to go for review and approval before the City Council and the Bernalillo County Commission starting in January of 2016. The Integrated Development Ordinance will be released in 3 modules. The first module was released for public review in October of 2015. Module 2 and Module 3 are expected in the spring and summer of 2016. An update to the city's zoning code is vital for the growth of our region. The city first adopted zoning in 1950 and replaced that original zoning code in 1975. This zoning, still on the books, was largely an off-the-shelf zoning code that many cities were adopting at that time. The existing zoning code tends to favor the automobile and results in largely suburban development patterns. Our suburban zoning code no longer matches our desires for the future. Our code currently does not allow mixed-use development in many cases. It doesn't accommodate pedestrians, bicycles, or transit very well. Because it was an off-the-shelf zoning code, it tends not to acknowledge the historical development patterns of our very old and historic city. Lastly, our zoning code treats all areas of the city the same and doesn't acknowledge the needs and character of our diverse neighborhoods. Almost immediately after adopting our zoning code in the 1970s, the city began adopting sector development plans. These plans were intended to help redevelopment efforts in areas that didn't match the suburban zoning code. Over time, these sector development plans proliferated to the point where the city now has over 60 separate standalone documents for small geographic areas throughout the city. As sector development plans proliferated over time, this inconsistency across plans made it very hard for city staff, neighbors, developers, and property owners to understand what could and should happen on a particular property. To complicate matters, sector development plan boundaries sometimes overlap to the point where there are occasionally 1, 2, 3, and even 4 layers of policy and regulation that conflict with each other. Despite all the sector plans, only about half the city is covered by these special regulations. If you want to know what you can do on a particular property in Albuquerque and you go to the zoning code, you only get the answer about 53% of the time. The other 47% of the time, answers to your questions will be found in one of over 100 documents that the city struggles to keep up to date. In addition to SU2 zones found in sector development plans, the city also has over 550 separate special use zones that are regulated for individual sites throughout the city. Each SU1 zone has its own regulations tied to a site plan that the city must keep on record and refer to over time. SU1 zones are largely the result of property owners requesting a different set of rules because the zoning code doesn't work for the kind of development they want. Albuquerque is one of the only cities that uses this system where special use zoning proliferates to this extent. The result of this complicated system is that the city must maintain and track over 550 separate SU1 zones, over 235 SU2 zones, as well as the straight zones out of the zoning code. This complicated system has become unenforceable. Citizens often complain that they come into the planning department and get different answers on different days when talking to different staff. The result is delays in desired development, as well as many unnecessary appeals. If we want the city to grow and see redevelopment in areas that need it, we have to change our system. ABC to Z represents a once-in-a-generation opportunity for the city to go from planning on a visionary level down to the details of a new development code. An updated comprehensive plan will include a vision for centers and corridors. Instead of growing ever outward on our edges, the centers and corridors concept focuses infill and redevelopment in desired areas, such as centers, and along corridors that connect them. Instead of growing forever outward on our edges, the centers and corridors concept concentrates development in desired centers and along the corridors that connect those centers. As the implementing tool of the comprehensive plan, the Integrated Development Ordinance will propose zoning districts matching the centers and corridors and helping us to achieve our community vision. The content of over 60 sector development plans will be analyzed and put into the appropriate places in the new city framework. The vision, goals, and policies from these plans will go into the policy document, the comprehensive plan. The regulation and zoning from these sector plans will be moved to the Integrated Development Ordinance. Other elements of the sector development plans, including information about area history and existing conditions and demographics. Other information from the sector development plans that's not a policy or a regulation will be part of an ongoing interactive process between the planning department's long-range division and communities to regularly assess how things are going in each community planning area. Over 40 of the current 60 sector development plans provide SU2 or special use zoning that is specific to that neighborhood. Some of these SU2 zones may become base zones within the new zoning framework. Good ideas from sector development plans in a particular SU2 zone could be extended citywide. Many sector development plans propose SU2 zones intended to protect the character of a particular area. When multiple SU2 zones are involved, a character protection overlay may be required. Many sector plans include regulations that have proven to be ineffective. In this case, the IDO will look to provide incentives to make desired development happen through a carrot rather than a stick. In some cases, the new IDO will not be able to move over every regulation from sector plans. Those that are outdated or unenforceable will need to be removed. For the first time since 1975, the city is poised to adopt a new zoning code. The Integrated Development Ordinance, or IDO, will completely overhaul our system of regulating land use and development. The new IDO will incorporate best practices for planning and development. First and foremost, the zoning code will align with the updated comprehensive plan. New zoning standards will increase the predictability for neighbors, property owners, developers, and contractors about what can happen on a particular property. Flexibility in zoning standards will give city staff more leeway in helping adjust standards to make developments happen. Each zoning district will have built-in neighborhood protection standards for every situation where a commercial or non-residential use abuts a residential neighborhood. Lastly, the Integrated Development Ordinance will ensure high-quality development while still protecting neighborhoods. The Integrated Development Ordinance is being developed in 3 phases. The first, posted for review in October of 2015, proposes new zoning districts and the land uses permitted in each. The second phase will be development standards. These are dimensions associated with setbacks, building heights, required parking, landscaping, etc. This draft is expected to be released to the public in spring of 2016. Phase 3, expected in summer 2016, will propose a new streamlined review and approval process for different kinds of development. Each zoning district will be illustrated and explained in a 2-page spread. The new IDO is intended to be simpler, better illustrated, and easier to understand for all stakeholders. The proposed new zones come in 3 categories. The first is residential, with uses varying from very rural areas to very dense, multifamily, high-density development. These proposed zones are intended to mix residential and commercial uses to create walkable, vibrant communities. Mixed-use zones range from a low-intensity, mixed-use transition zone appropriate next to neighborhoods to a high-intensity mixed-use zone best in urban areas such as downtown or uptown. Non-residential zones are intended for areas of employment and manufacturing. A new zone for parks and open space will have 3 components: 1 for city-owned public parks, 1 for city-owned major public open space, and the last for private open space. The IDO will include an SU1 zone, NR-SU. Unlike our current SU1 zone, this will be intended for a short list of uses that need discretionary approval, such as landfills. This new framework of zoning districts is intended to help implement the community vision and the goals we have for our future, to streamline and simplify the development process for high-quality development where we want it, and enhance and protect the character of our diverse neighborhoods. Zoning describes what you can do on a particular property and how that development should look and feel. The new IDO structure proposes a use table where you can compare across zones what uses are allowed. The column on the left describes the land use. Each row of the table describes a particular land use. The columns are organized by residential, mixed use, and non-residential zones and allows comparison from zone to zone. The column on the right describes standards associated with a particular use. For each use across the different zones, the land use table will describe the uses that are permitted, conditional, conditional as accessory, conditional only if the property has been vacant for more than 10 years, an accessory use, or a temporary use. For example, an accessory use might be a caretaker residence on a commercial property. Under the new IDO, many steps will be taken to protect neighborhoods. Each zoning district will provide regulations tailored to protect the individuality of specific neighborhoods. For example, some sector development plans allow accessory dwelling units in R1. In these locations only, accessory dwelling units will continue to be allowed. The IDO will also include tools to ensure safety around airports, protect views, historic character, and neighborhood character. ABC to Z is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to change zoning in our city. We can only succeed with your help. The project website, abczone.com, includes documents for your review and comment, as well as information about upcoming meetings. Zoning may seem like a dry subject, but it's really like the DNA that allows our city to grow over time. The intent is to simplify and streamline the development process, create development that's walkable, that supports economic development and transit-supportive development, all while protecting our neighborhoods and enhancing quality of life for all of us.